Our special guest today is an Australian musician, composer and vocalist. He has been described as a unique stylist and is widely recognised as a powerful and sensitive player with tons of credibility. Harry Bruce, welcome to 92.7 FM.
So glad to be here, John.
And Harry, thank you for your time. Harry, you've just released your new album, Blue Dawn.
That's right.
Could you tell us a little bit about the album, Harry? Thanks.
Oh, well, I figured after 50 years of being in the trenches with all the other musicians and stars, I figured it was time to do my own thing, and it's been a long time coming, but once I got down to it, it seemed to come pretty quick.
So this is your first album then, Harry?
That's right, yeah.
Right. And it's a double CD. The other side is called
Journey
from the
yeah.
Archives. Yeah.
That's right.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's basically stuff that I did years ago in my
Okay.
studio on tape, and it's just a different style, but I figured I put so much heart and soul into those old tracks, it was a good opportunity to include them.
Harry, you just mentioned about, being the musician and it was time, to come to your own front. How did you then choose the musicians that you wanted on this one? There's so many.
Well, basically, they're the ones that I think would have been suited to what I was doing the best. And the great thing was, as soon as I gave them a call, they were all there like a shot. All these great musicians just came straight away, which was just a very good feeling.
Look, I counted up about 16 others on this CD, which is fantastic. Now, you yourself play many instruments. So how did you work out on the day what you were going to play? Did you pick that first?
Well, basically on the Journey from the Archives, that's me playing mostly everything on all the instruments and all the tracks. But this time I'd actually put a lot of these guitar parts and keyboard parts down. But once these musicians came in, I figured that they were much more sort of capable of playing their parts. So I basically got rid of my parts and then just included theirs.
How long took you to put this together?
5 weeks was it. Bang.
Really? Oh, unbelievable.
That's it. Well, the thing is, too, now that I'm sort of moving at such a rate, I'm already into some new projects because I found that this working situation was coming pretty naturally to me. So I'm still at the moment producing other people at the moment just because I'm in that frame of like the work ethic.
I've only received the album, I think, on Wednesday, and I haven't had a chance to really get into it. But a couple of tracks that I like are actually on the Blue Dawn side. I like the first one, Fallen Angels, and I also like White Dove. I think they're pretty great.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and also if you get a chance to listen to the whole album, it's quite a varied range of styles because I guess in my career I've jumped from genre to genre, which is like country, funk, pop, rock. So, it means that I find all sorts of music interesting.
Well, do you have a particular favourite from the album, Harry?
Oh, I think the one that is definitely probably my best song is Just the Thought of You, which has been recorded by New Zealand band Artie Jar and also recorded in America by Renee Gayer with members from the Bonnie Raitt band. So that's probably my favourite song, mainly because I think it's probably the most skillful song as well.
Okay. All right. Well, Harry, we'll just have a listen to that right now. The Very Thought of You, Harry Bruce from his album Blue Dawn. We're talking to Harry Bruce, a musician, composer and a vocalist, regarding his new album, Blue Dawn, and we just heard a track from the album. Harry, is the album readily available?
Yes, it is. I've just been setting up a PayPal account, and it took me a while to organise. I got so quick on it that I organised the other things first without actually letting people know how to buy it. So that's happening this week. I'll let you know exactly when it's all cemented.
Okay, well, you do that, and I'll let everybody know where they can get it. As I said, what I've heard of it, I really like it, and it's like you said, each song is sort of different. There's so many different feels there, so many different grooves. I think it's a great album, mate. Credits.
That's fantastic, John, coming from one of my favourite bass players.
Oh, dear. And fair enough, too, because, look, we'll just touch on that. You mentioned the bass, as we all know. I'd say you're predominantly known as a bass player. Would that be correct, although you play heaps of instruments?
Oh, totally. I'm a bass player first and foremost, I think.
Okay, well, what's your next one of choice?
I say guitar, mainly because, believe it or not, back in 1967, I was on tour with Johnny Young from Young Talent Time playing lead guitar.
Yes, look, I did read that, and that really fascinated me because until then I knew you played other instruments. So when did the lead come in? Was that at the same time as the bass?
It was first, Basically, I was a guitar player with the Amazons who used to get up at Beach House. And in those days, just before we sort of hooked up with the Whispers, I was playing lead guitar in that band, and they found a guitar player who had the best gear, Rickenbacker guitar and Fender amp, and they figured, me with my shitty little gear, I think I sort of took a back seat, and they said, listen, well, you can either sort of see you later or play bass. And I thought, geez, I'll never get another gig, so I better play bass.
I reckon it was a good step, Harry.
Well, it's a funny way of getting into your instrument of choice, but I think now, coming to it, it was always what I had the best aptitude towards,
Yeah. Well, I only ever wanted to play bass. I did fiddle with guitar, but I only ever wanted to hear it going through my head all the time, and I didn't really know what it was until I went to the first American rock and roll show at Sydney Stadium, and I seen Freddie Bell and the Bell Boys, and a bloke called Frankie Brent was playing a Fender Precision bass, which I'd never seen before or ever heard before, live, I mean. And I thought, that's for me, that's what I want to do, and I did it.
Yeah, well, when I saw you play with the Whispers, I always remember you did remind me a lot of Jet Harris, because I was a real Shadows freak. I mean, even now, even now when I hear Wonderful Land, I get chills.
Yeah.
And it really gets to me.
Harry, just a little bit about yourself. You're originally from Austria?
That's right. I came out here at 7 years old, not speaking any English, and within 6 months I was fluent.
I bet. And your musical influence, does that come from your parents, or where did that come from?
No, I think it just happened naturally. I gravitated to, running around Enmore, which is my home.
Yep.
See, the Enmore Theatre is actually my childhood cinema that I went to every Saturday. So, I mean, the young ones with Cliff and the Shadows, I mean, all that stuff just, to me, it was echoing around the suburbs and still does in my mind.
Well, in those days too, Harry, there was always somewhere you could go and see people playing music, wasn't there?
Well, I remember the 870 Club. Remember that
Yes, I
at
do.
2GB? And I went to see shows there, and you'd see some incredible acts, and you just have a ticket.
Yep.
And I think that was the beginning at the Trocadero of my serious love of it. And then I went to see all those radio shows in town. I think the State Theatre used to have them.
Yes, they did. They also had them at the ABC Theatre, I think, which is in Castlereagh Street.
That's
Small
right.
theatre, they had them there, yeah.
I still remember stalking Vince Maloney one day. After a show, I followed him down to a milk bar because I thought he was just about the best-looking muso I'd ever seen in my life. As you can remember, Vince did look outstanding,
Oh, yeah, he still does. He's all right. I haven't seen him for about 12 months, but, yeah, he's okay. He's still around, still doing it,
he
too.
looks fantastic. And, I mean, in those days, he was, wow. We thought, wow, what a muso, and the rest of the aspects were fine, but they weren't quite in the same league.
I've heard a lot of women say that, but I think it's the first time I've heard a male say that, but good on you.
Yeah, well, it's funny, actually, because that's the first person I ever stalked.
Really? Oh, that's amazing. The first person I ever stalked is sitting beside me right now. So.
Oh, I figured that.
Yeah, did you? Yeah, well, let's go back to your bass. And, of course, you did have a few lessons out at John's. And then you went into hair. I don't know that a lot of people would know that.
That's right. And I'll tell you a funny story because when I got into hair, guess who was the first person down? Because in those days, the band was on show, actually on top of the whole show. And the whole audience was watching the band playing it rather than being in a pit. And so after the nude scene, guess who was the first person scurrying down the skip stairs?
Well, you actually, Harry, you went in the hair after me. I was in it, but only for 2 weeks. It was just too hectic for me. I went in after